want to go on to the next fantastic presenter we have here, who is Daraka Larimore-Hall. Daraka is the secretary of the California Democratic Party and the chair of the local Santa Barbara County Democratic Party. He's a former union and student organizer. I actually remember him from the 90s, back when we were all young. And he's a lifelong progressive movement activist that holds a PhD in sociology from this great institution. He lives here in Santa Barbara, where he teaches at Santa Barbara City College and works as an advisor and campaign consultant for social democratic parties in Europe and Australia. So join me in welcoming Daraka to the stage.
How's everyone doing today? Oh yeah, afternoon of a day long of political discussion. You guys look surprisingly awake. That's good. Maybe it's because you're woke. Well, look, I want to try to sort of be brief and just throw out a couple of notions or a couple of ideas. And I want to do what you're sort of the opposite of how we're trained in academia. I actually want to start with something very concrete and specific and end on a kind of some scattered thoughts about big picture and theory and so forth. I want to start with talking about the community that's really just a few hundred meters away from us, from where we sit right now, the community of Isla Vista, which is intimately connected to the life of UCSB, of this university. So for those of you who aren't locals, who are in from out of town, or who are unaccustomed to or afraid to walk under the little bridge and go into Isla Vista, this is a community that is made up of several struggling communities. The first and most visible struggling community there, of course, the one that has made it sort of famous or infamous, depending on what you're reading, is the student community. And this is a community of people, of young, striving folks trying to secure their place in the middle class, either from the working class or from that part of the middle class that's struggling to stay in the middle class. And they are literally preyed upon by landowners and property owners who take advantage of the fact that they want to live next to the university. It's really outrageous if you take a look at the housing costs for students and people paying $1,000 to share a room in order to live next to the university. And this, of course, is on top of the fact that for many of them, they're already essentially mortgaging all of their future income in the form of massive and oppressive loans on horrible terms. So here's a community of people being frankly oppressed by a set of broken institutions, a broken higher education system that sees itself as a commodity to be doled out to only a few people in society, and a broken land use and housing system in which we rely completely on the market in order to provide something that is a human right, right? So for those of us that are interested in big picture change, here's some examples of what is wrong with the current situation right here at home, right down the street. It's also home, however, to another set of communities that get a lot less attention in the media and in the popular imagination, certainly the regional imagination. And that is a population of very hardworking, mainly Latino working class families who are stuck in the same completely untenable and unsustainable situation with rent, and face an economy in which we have devalued labor to the point that it is controversial in our political system to suggest that a fair day's work should reap a fair day's pay. So low-income workers struggling with what has happened in the global economy over the past 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, which is a sort of repeal of the deal that was made, the compromise that was made between class forces after and during World War II. So these big picture issues that, I'm sure have been discussed by far smarter people than me this morning are in play right here, right in our community. So, as was said in my introduction, and I think a little bit of an odd duck in the program, like I'm a Democrat. I'm involved in, mainstream politics. What's interesting to me about being a Democrat, though, is that I think that we are only of use to regular people when as a party and as a way of thinking and as a political space, we engage with and are open to critique and pressure from social movements from below. And that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm happy to be part of this conversation. But my challenge is to anybody who considers himself a leftist, as I do, anybody who's interested in thinking outside of the current parameters of what's possible, which I would include myself very much in that community, is that whenever we're dreaming and whatever we're going to propose as a set of alternatives, and that's a very worthwhile conversation, it has to inform the work that we do in the day-to-day in a helpful way. In other words, we have to have an analysis of the world that helps us fight and win in a place like Isla Vista to actually help empower people to fix a situation that is untenable and dire and unfair and oppressive right here in our backyard. Our big ideas have to inform not just the day after tomorrow and what we want to see in the future, but also today and tomorrow and how we're going to ensure that things change for real people in the real world right now. And here's the thing about the politics going on in and around Isla Vista. The fact is that Isla Vista is a community of thousands of people that doesn't have a city council, that doesn't have local representation, that is unincorporated, and so relies really for its political representation on a county board of supervisors in a seat in which more than half of the electorate, depending on who turns out to vote, are, home-owning conservatives in the north part of this county. This is also, by the way, the seat on the county board of supervisors that's the most likely to switch between party hands and then decides who has the political majority on the county board overall, which determines things like whether the drive from UCSB up the coast is a beautiful one of unspoiled nature and scenery along our coast or a wall of McMansions. That will be decided by the County Board of Supervisors in the seat that's up for grabs that's right here in which so many students live. So our vision of the day after tomorrow has to include a vision for making sure that people right here in Isla Vista are able to have a platform to fight on their issues in their community and to be part of a majority in this county that will keep our precious natural resources from being thrown into private hands. Big picture issues that come down to a very practical thing about voter turnout in Isla Vista in just a couple of weeks in the June election. For me, the purpose and the notion and the promise of thinking big and critiquing what exists and daring to dream about what could be is the way that it informs our priorities for how we go into a community like Isla Vista to organize it. If we care about how the problems of the global economy, the problems of inequality, the problems of our completely backward approach to higher education, if those things are our critique and that's what we want to go and change, then we don't go into a community in Isla Vista saying, hey, it's really important that you turn out and vote just so you can send people with a D next to their name to vote on your behalf in Sacramento or in Washington. We go in with a program that starts from the bottom up about how political engagement in the long run can help fix these problems that translate into inadequate housing, inadequate access to education, and inadequate wages for the people who live right here in our community. So my challenge to you as a friend from within the system, so to speak, is to say that the more conversations we have that include a program for how we're going to fight together to empower our neighbors to improve their lives is a conversation very much worth having and a conversation very much worth forcing upon our leaders. Thank you.